Capricorns, welcome to your weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for March 7th through the 13th of 2016. I'm Athen, and this is for Sidereal Astrology. If you are new to this type of astrology, be sure to check out the link down below because the signs are different. All right, so Capricorn, a very transformative week. As for those of you who know, we have a solar eclipse, total solar eclipse, on Tuesday and Wednesday. So this is about the South Node. It's going to be a South Node solar eclipse, which is about releasing and coming to acceptance of any old energies, any old perspectives, which through that creates a spiritual liberation, which then helps us propel into our life path that much more consciously. So let's go and look at what this looks like for you in your chart. You've got your life path, the North Node, shifting into your 8th house this early part of the year. So these next 2 years is very much about going into deeper connections, going into healthier forms of bonds and shared resources, or exchanging things depending on others in healthy ways, but really connecting to the deeper aspects of yourself and learning more about yourself in that deeper way, which is actually quite optimistic, or at least you're seeing the bright side of that with Jupiter here, which is excellent. You can learn a lot about it, but it is internalized, it is reflective right now, so it is good to kind of continue to re-examine that for these next couple months. Now, this part of the chart isn't really being activated that strongly. Of course, the eclipse is always associated with both nodes, but this part, the newness, the new beginnings, is going to be later in the month. We're always going into new beginnings, but in the larger sense. Now, in the larger sense of this early part of the month, the emphasis will be on this eclipse, which is going to be with the South Node down here at the 2nd and 3rd houses. So I think it's going to be strongly on the 2nd house for you and a little bit of the 3rd. And this is all about, again, having that spiritual acceptance, which then will allow you to move into that life path. So the acceptance here is all about any over-under extremes about the material side of life. This is the 2nd house. So it might be finances. It might be, with Neptune having faith and trust. That's been an ongoing lesson, but this is a little bit different. This is any over-under extremes about your values in life, right? And a focus there. It might be taken to an extreme with that. And so whatever it is, if it's usually material, then it's usually on the financial material side. But on a more fundamental level, it's your sense of self-worth. Like, are you capable and able to pursue your values in life? So that's really getting activated. And so there might be some wounds around that, which I think you've already done quite a bit of healing with. So I don't think that's going to be too much of a thing, although it is conjoining Chiron. So there might be, I think a lot of it is just being aware of that there is this acceptance, accepting things for how they are in that material level. And it's through that acceptance we come to that spiritual liberation, really gratitude also in terms of this area of life. And again, that helps you go into the more deeper and more meaningful spiritual side of things, which is the conscious life path support for you. Now, a little bit of that 3rd house, it has been an area of already you've been releasing. This is the South Node that's been transiting your 3rd house for the past 2 years, which is about that communication, right? And insight and wanting to learn, read, write, communicate. Any over-under extremes with that on the practical, quote, realistic side of things. So being aware of that can also help you transform and heal in those areas. And now with Chiron making his way into this part of your chart, healing any wounds around the social, the communicative, the intellectual, the exchanging aspects of life. So let's go and look at what this week looks like in terms of how things are unfolding. We've got a lot of aspects this week associated with this eclipse. Starting on Monday, the sun will be sextiling up to Pluto, suggesting that there is this insight. And maybe it's a minor aspect, but there might be some insight in regards to where you can make change. There might be a little bit of motivation too to make some change or whatever it is. So it's nice because it's an easy aspect. It's an opportunity here to make some change leading into this solar eclipse, which is setting the foundation for it. Now, a good way of working with this is to go within. These eclipses, they're like the new moon energy. It's a good time to recede, to go within, to reflect, and particularly I think around those 2nd house matters for you. Now, Monday and Tuesday, as we approach it, the sun will be opposing up to Jupiter. So with this, there's that importance of balance, seeing that your values are deep, they are meaningful. What about your values are deep and meaningful to you, and vice versa? What about things that are deep and meaningful have that material counterpart? In other words, how can you enjoy them in the earthly, sensual sense, right? It's really about seeing them as one and the same thing. What has a deeper component has a physical component. What has a physical component has a deeper component. And in the realm of relationships, if that's more the case for you personally, how you can have healthy self-reliance, which is that material side of life, while at the same time having healthy codependency. And when you find that balance and that harmony, then it helps neutralize and balance these parts of your chart. So after the eclipse on Wednesday, we have some sign changes. We've got the sun going into your third house, which is the house of communication, again, of exchanging, socializing perhaps, reading, writing. So all that more intellectual stuff, I think you can really gain a lot of energy with for about the next month or so with the sun in Pisces. So the sun's going to go over Chiron, so there might be, again, some healing about the intelligence or communication or social things, but that's okay. It's all about exploring it. I think the sun could really illuminate a lot of that stuff, in fact. And that could be very rejuvenating, in fact, going into the weekend. The other planet that's changing sign is going to be Mercury. Mercury is going into the second house of yours. Excuse me, not Mercury, Venus. Venus is going into the second house. So she's been in your first house. And you guys, up to this point, probably have been enjoying more of the pursuing your goals, maybe looking good, feeling good, etc. But now Venus comes into the second house, which is actually a really good placement for her to be in. You can really enjoy those material values, I think, for the next few weeks. Sensual pleasures, Earth, and everything Earth provides, which is, of course, the tangible stuff. So that's quite nice for the next few weeks. Mars is another planet changing sign midweek. Mars is going to go into that 11th house. So while the community stuff and maybe your visions and ideals have been very grounded, or maybe you've been taking that stuff quite seriously lately with Saturn, now you got drive, you got motivation, you got ambition with Mars. You can gain actually a lot of motivation and energy through anything that might be an ideal or might be group related in that sense, or innovative if it's more on the introverted sense. So that's going to be the shifts. And then as we approach the weekend with the sun going over Chiron, we also have Mercury going over Neptune. Again, the uncertainty about how things are unfolding with the material side of things, okay, and with the sense of self-worth and self-reliance. But that's okay. Again, there's nothing new here. You already went through a lot of that sort of acceptance last week with the sun over Neptune. So now in a rational sense, the more open you are to going with the flow, realizing that everything you have is taken care of, right? You are taken care of, and seeing that divine process on how things unfold when you need them, right? And accepting that more spiritual aspect and spiritual perspective to the material aspects of things. And the more willing you are to do that, this can actually be a very easygoing time where you can really relax into that unknown with Mercury. Now, what's nice about this whole week is that Jupiter and Pluto are in a good harmonious aspect. Well, Pluto's in good position here. So Pluto is going to be trining up to Jupiter for the second time. Okay, and this is the second aspect of a retrograde Jupiter. But so it's a little bit more on the internal, again, a reflection, but there's a lot of like motivation and drive to really make change, right? A willingness to make change. And that's something to certainly listen to as we go into next week. It's a very slow transit. So it's going to be dragged out into next week. So especially over the weekend, if you are guided, if you're feeling that change, if you're feeling that willingness to restructure, to make new, particularly with what is deep and meaningful, I think this is a very supportive aspect to work with in that regards. And Pluto's in your 12th house, really transforming your spiritual self. So the more open you are to change in terms of, again, that divine process really empowers that, in this case, Jupiter. Now, the last aspect of the week, the sun will be conjoining up to the south node in the third house. So there is awareness, there is insight about what these deep things are that we are coming to balance with, the over-under extremes with either the material or the intellectual or communicative side of things. And in that way, we come to that awareness, which then helps us propel into this new life path direction of what is deep, what is meaningful, what has that bond, that connection, and in relationships, healthy codependency. All right, Capricorn, so have an excellent week. If you guys have any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you all next week.